Good morning, Knicks Nation. Today is Tuesday. It is the 28th of September, 2021. Today is the first day of New York Knicks training camp. I hope you're COVID-free today. I hope you're healthy. I hope your family, in terms of their needs and your needs, in terms of food, shelter, clothing, and health, are being met. Blessings upon those that work in the healthcare field, trying to save lives. Blessings upon those that pick up garbage for us to keep our places clean. Blessings upon those that make deliveries for us for our convenience. Double blessings on those trying to deliver, help, and recover boys and girls, men and women, children, teenagers, from sex slave human trafficking operations going on a global basis, from child molestation, child pedophilia, child prostitution, forced prostitution. Blessings upon those that are trying to help deliver and recover these innocents, and curses upon those that support these human destroying industries. Finally, blessings upon the homeless, 600,000 plus human beings, men, women, children, families, veterans in the United States and millions around the world that have a roof over their head and oftentimes don't even know where their next meal is coming from. Blessings upon them, for theirs is the kingdom, and blessings upon those trying to help these people that have fallen in unfortunate situations. It's early in the morning today. I have a conference in the middle of D.C. today. So I have to leave before dawn, as it is now. And so I wanted to share some thoughts, some interesting things I saw yesterday in the news conference. Now, the media and even some fans in New York like drama. And, of course, it was noted that there was no drama yesterday in New York City. I'll mention why in a minute, why that's significant. But there was no drama, which is what you expect from a well-run organization. Yes, a well-run organization in New York Knicks in Madison Square Garden. Couldn't say that for a long time. New York City, I've long believed, since I was a little boy growing up in Long Island, is the greatest city in the world. Always believed that. One of the hardest days of my life was when we had to leave. Circumstances caused us to have to leave New York City in 1988. I had never intended on leaving NYC. I was on Long Island, but I moved to D.C. shortly after high school graduation and stayed there moved to New York City in Manhattan after graduation and stayed for more than a decade there in New York City. And yeah, I hated to leave. And it's always been the greatest city in the world to me. The people, the culture, the energy. There's nothing like New York. But I think we all understand in Knicks Nation, it is also the most difficult place for a professional athlete to apply their trade. It is the most difficult place for a professional coach to coach. And that doesn't matter if it's hockey, baseball, football, or basketball. Very difficult to play in New York. The reason is several-fold, of course. First of all, there's the media. The New York media is the most intense in the United States of America and one of the most intense in the world. Always looking for headlines, always looking to make a splash, always looking to keep the attention of New Yorkers. And so they oftentimes will say things, write things, publish things, whether true or not, just to get attention. That puts a lot of pressure on players. Second, of course, is the fans themselves. You're talking about millions of fans. We're talking about Knicks Nation now. So there's millions of fans just in the tri-state area, not including millions more around the world. And among all of those, you're going to have all kinds of people. People that are never satisfied. People that are angry. People that are looking for an outlet in sports, and they take all their frustrations out on the team. That's just part of playing in New York City. Then there's Madison Square Garden, where, because, as I mentioned, there's millions of fans in New York City, you're never going to have a trouble getting 20,000 people come to Madison Square Garden. First of all, just as Madison Square Garden. So whether it's a basketball game, a hockey game, or a concert, or whatever, it's going to be packed in Madison Square Garden. But especially this is true of the New York Knicks. And so playing in that atmosphere, and it's different for players that are coming as visitors than if you play there 41 games a year. Coming as visitors is almost like you're getting hyped for an NCAA game. It's just like a one-time thing. You showing up in New York and you want to show out, and then you're gone. But for the guys that's here every day, every night, 41 nights a year playing, dealing with the fans, dealing with the media, dealing with all the things that come with New York City, it's not easy to play here. And so I guess what I want to talk about is why we have this year what I would call a special team. Now, it's not special in the sense that, all-time team in terms of talent or anything like that. What I'm about to say, only people in Knicks Nation would understand. Because of the fact that it's difficult to play here, there are certain players that will just ball. And then the biggest, the more intimidating the stage, the better they play. Okay? New York is the ultimate crucible, the ultimate test for those type of players. More players than not do not succeed in New York City because of the things I mentioned. But then you got those players that just, it don't matter. They're going to ball regardless. Latrell Sprewell comes to my mind. It's one of the things I loved about Latrell Sprewell when he came from Golden State here to the New York Knicks in the late 90s, or in 2001 actually. 2000. Oh, it was 99. 99 he came. The 98-99 season he came. Strike shortened season. It didn't matter where Spree was. It didn't matter if whatever arena he was in, or they're booing him or they was cheering him, he was going to try to kill you. And that's why he's one of my all-time favorite Knicks, because of that attitude that he had in terms of he was just going to ball regardless. So yesterday, at the media day, I don't know who else was on media. I saw Julius Randle, R.J. Barrett, Derrick Rose, Evan Fournier, and of course Kemba Walker. They brought those guys out yesterday. Now, if there was others, I didn't see it, but that's what I saw yesterday. Now, Julius Randle, when Scott Perry and Steve Mills came to him that summer when they signed him 3 seasons ago, he wanted New York City. Here's a guy from Dallas, Texas. Now, I'm not saying Dallas, Texas is no small-time city, but it's not New York City. Here's a guy that played 1 year at Kentucky, broke his leg, went to L.A., which is another tough market, but it ain't New York City. Okay? It's more laid back. Everybody that's been around knows that. L.A. is much more laid back than New York. New York is way more intense. He wanted New York City. And he signed up to be the man in New York City. And the first year, he still was a double-double dude, but he admitted that he wasn't up to par. He stood up like a grown man and admitted that. As Kobe Bryant once described him, Kobe was right. He's like a grown man, even though he's a young man. And then, of course, we know what happened last year. I guess what I'm saying is Julius Randle could play in New York City. Then we had D. Rose, who we already know, a baller from Chicago. Now, if there's any cities that's like New York in the United States, there's 2 of them, Philly and Chicago, maybe Boston, but Philly and Chicago for sure. Okay. And he balled out. He's from Chicago, from the South Side, and then came out and balled in New York. Doesn't matter because it's D. Rose. So those 2 guys we knew about. Then, of course, there's R.J. Barrett, who when he was a freshman at Duke and they came to play in the Garden, was asked. Remember, they asked Zion, what do you think about the Knicks? And then Zion turned and said, RJ. He said, oh, that's RJ's team. He said, RJ, what do you think about the Knicks? We're going to play with the Knicks. Remember that? And RJ yelled, yeah. And then when they drafted him on draft night, he was excited. He was excited at the press conference. He said, I'm a Knick. Not only accepting, not only embracing New York, but thriving. He was only 20 last year. That's why I still don't get some people that doubters about RJ. But then again, like I said, in Knicks Nation, you're going to get all kinds of people. So, but RJ, he's going to be something else. He's going to ball regardless. He started the bully ball from opening night. It's rookie year. So we know RJ, we know Julius, and we know D Rose can ball in New York City. Now that's big time. Y'all New York Knicks Nation understands that. Not everybody could do that. And we got 3 guys now, but more now. Kemba Walker, Rice High School, went to UConn. We know the whole story of his exploits at Madison Square Garden. We know he could ball in New York City under the lights of MSG. He's not going to wilt. Then there was Evan Fournier. This is the guy that not only not surprised, but I was pleasantly surprised. And he set the tone for everything I said today. You know, Evan Fournier is really from North Africa. And he was raised in France. And when he plays in the World Tournament, he plays for Africa. He plays in the African tournament. Why do I bring that up? Because he has that vibe that, you know, it don't matter vibe. Like, I'm not scared of nothing vibe. The vibe you need in Madison Square Garden. And if you saw yesterday, they were asking him about, I don't know how it came up. I think he mentioned judo. That his parents, he says he's always been tough because both his parents are judo instructors and instruct the national team in judo. And they asked him if he practiced judo. And he said, yeah, I practiced it, but not official. You know, I was on the sideline with my father practicing. Well, you can't get, if your father's an instructor, you know, you obviously, you may not get a belt or anything, but you know how to handle yourself. So one of the reporters was asking him, you know, so did you pick up anything? And if you remember his answer, he said, don't worry, I can kick your ass. I mean, Evan Fournier is not going to have a problem in New York City. Came to the city talking about he was looking for a barber, riding the subways. It reminds me now, Evan Fournier's game, obviously, is not Latrell Sprewell's game. Latrell Sprewell was an explosive, you know, player. 48 minutes of relentless energy he brought every night. I mean, I'm not even joking. You know, if you watch Sprewell, even when he was in Golden State, 48 minutes of relentless energy, you know, every night on both ends of the floor. He could just flat out ball. Evan Fournier is not Latrell Sprewell, but Evan Fournier is good. And in the team that we have, he is not going to wilt under the pressure, which is the most important thing. He's not going to wilt. So look, the 5 guys that we brought out yesterday in the press conference, Julius, Derrick Rose, Kemba Walker, Evan Fournier, and RJ Barrett, they're going to all ball under the lights of Madison Square Garden. They're not going to wilt. They're not going to be scared. This is big time in New York. That's what I say makes them, for New York, special. We'd be glad if we get 1 or 2 guys that's not afraid under the lights of Madison Square Garden, that won't wilt under the pressure of playing in New York City. As many players have in all sports, but including the Knicks. But to have 5 like that, and then Mitchell Robinson, well, look, I always call Mitchell Robinson, well, y'all know if you from New York, he part of the Goon Squad. Mitchell's like from the Goon Squad. When he first came in the league, if you remember, he was talking mess to one of the Morris twins. When I forgot if it was Markeith or Mook. Both of those dudes roughnecks. And he was in Washington, D.C., and he was just whispering something and was getting, I think it was Mook, he was getting them all riled. Mitch part of the Goon Squad, man. Even though he come from the Bayou, there's some tough boys coming out of the South. And then, of course, we know about Deuce. Now, Grimes, I think Grimes, I said that I wanted the Knicks to draft Quentin Grimes. I think he's going to be a really good NBA player. He could be really better than even that. But he did go to Kansas, and it did take him a year to adjust. And he had to come back to Houston and get himself together. So I might see that pattern again. You're not going to have any such issues with Deuce McBride. He's another dude. He's going to come off the bench. He's going to start in the practice balling. So you're not going to have any such issues with him. So that's what I'm saying. When you're talking about the 5 guys that was there yesterday, you're talking about Mitchell Robinson. You're talking about Deuce McBride. See, even Obi's from New York, and I believe he's going to ball. But the whole thing of being in the Garden and being excited for being home and playing in his rookie year, you know, it took him a minute to get adjusted. I think he's still going to need some adjustment. He's going to end up balling, but it's just not, he's not going to come out the gate dogging like these other guys I just named. I'm not saying Opie's not going to be good. Please don't get it twisted. He's very good. And he's going to be really good, I believe. But which is why I don't know if we can keep him, because I think he's got all-star potential and he got to be starting somewhere. But for now, it's fine. But that's another story. But we got cats that's going to come out the gate like dogs in New York City this year. And I'm excited to see it. And that's why only I could say this to Knicks Nation, because only y'all would understand. These guys are special because they can play in New York. They can handle the pressure. They're not going to melt under the lights of Madison Square Garden playing 41 nights. Matter of fact, I think like with Kemba, in all of their case, but with Kemba and Evan Fournier, our newest dudes, it's going to make them play even better. So I'm really excited for this season. I'm really excited for what we have and what it's going to look like going forward. Y'all should enjoy this because, like I said, you don't always get guys. I mean, I believe, this is just my personal belief. I believe LeBron didn't want to deal with New York City. That's why he didn't come. I believe a lot of players that don't come to New York, they might make excuses or whatever. It's the management or whatever, or they don't have their act together or whatever. But the real deal is not everybody could play in New York. And most guys are not man enough to admit that. Most of the players that don't come here, it's the reason. Not everybody can come here. But we got guys that not only want to come here, have already proven in the case of RJ, Julius, and D-Rose that they will ball at Madison Square Garden. They don't care what the fans think. They don't care what's going on. In fact, everything fuels them to just become better. So enjoy this Knicks Nation. We're in a good situation. Tight management, tight coaching staff, and several players that are built to play in New York City. Be safe out there. Enjoy your Tuesday. Training camp starts today. Ooh, the war is on. I wish I could see that. Shalom.